Okay, hey everybody, welcome back to lesson 8. And in this lesson, we are going to talk a little bit more in depth about the role of thankfulness in the process of forgiveness and as well as overcoming bitterness. I know I've talked about this already in this course, but I really want to bring it to you in a different way, a kind of different perspective of it. And I want to talk to you really quickly about the Grinch movie. So I don't have a TV. I don't watch TV. I just don't have time for it. I don't enjoy sitting there and watching the TV, so I don't have one. I like to read. So this past December, my church, though, they had a movie night and they wanted to watch this movie called The Grinch, which I know about it from the book. This is the Real People movie. And so there's real people in this Grinch movie. And in this movie, we see the Grinch as a child, and he's not looking like all the other kids, right? And he's trying to do things to fit in, like shave his face and do all of this stuff. He's not able to fit in with the kids because he just doesn't look like them. They all kind of look the same, and so they tease him, and he gets so angry that he actually destroys the Christmas tree, destroys all the presents that are under the Christmas tree, and this is in his school when he's a child. And it's that incident that makes him leave the Whoville town, the town of Whoville, where all of these people who kind of look and act the same live. And he leaves the town and he goes into this like remote mountain cave area, and he lives there by his own self. And he's got a dog up there, and he's super angry and he's hateful, and he grows up to be an adult, and he's still angry and he's still hurtful, right? And there's a child in this movie called Cindy Lou, and she is very sympathetic to the Grinch, and she doesn't like that he was teased. He doesn't like that he's left alone on Christmas, and she is trying to advocate for the Grinch among all of the Whoville people to bring him back, to go and get him. And the adults, and mainly the mayor of this Whoville, is mocking her, for wanting to do this, for her altruism and those feelings that she has for the Grinch. So time goes on, and every Christmas, the Grinch can see the lights down below at the Whoville, and he hears the sounds of them singing the Christmas songs, and he's getting angrier and angrier. He's unwilling to let go of the pain that he experienced as a child, and finally he can't take it anymore. He comes up a plan, which we all know the story is that he comes up with this plan to go steal Christmas, right? And so he does. He gets his dog, and he goes and steals all the Christmas decorations, the tree, the food, and he makes his dog carry up all of this stuff back up to the mountain into his remote cave where he lives. And he is so excited. He is up waiting to hear how disappointed these Whoville people are going to be when they wake up and they see that there's no Christmas because he's stolen all of their things. And so everybody comes outside their houses, and they're gathering in the center of this town Whoville, and they're kind of wondering what we should be doing, because now we have no Christmas stuff. And Cindy Lou is there again, and she is saying that they don't need any stuff in order to celebrate Christmas. And her dad this time agrees with her and stands up for her with the mayor. And so the Grinch is watching all of this happen, from the mountain. And while the people are still deciding how do we react to this situation, he's the Grinch is still waiting for them to hear them crying, very sad that all this stuff is stolen. But as he looks on, he starts to hear that the who's from the Whoville are singing Christmas songs. They all are standing around the tree that is in the center of the town. They're holding hands, they're singing together, and they're basically you know what, we still have one another, we can have Christmas even if we don't have all our stuff. And so I love this. I actually wrote it out from the movie. And the Grinch with his Grinch feet ice cold in the snow stood puzzling and puzzling. How could it be so? It came without ribbons, it came without tags, it came without packages, boxes, or bags. And he puzzled and puzzled till his puzzler was sore. Then the Grinch thought of something he hadn't before. What if Christmas, he thought, doesn't come from a store? What if Christmas perhaps means a little bit more? So now the Grinch is having the realization that his plan is not working, and he is puzzled by this, and he is thinking how can that be? I stole Christmas. He thinks Christmas is the things. Then he starts to realize that it's something else. And in the movie, he falls down to the ground and he's crying and he's holding his chest and he's, flailing all around, and it's quite hilarious. But what, as the story goes, his heart is growing during this time. He's feeling the pain of his heart expanding. And so he sits up and he starts to cry, and his heart, of course, is 3 sizes bigger. And the Grinch starts to see that the error in his way of thinking, and he starts to take all of this stuff that he had stolen. He's like, you know what, they're gonna be happy without the stuff, and it wasn't the stuff. I thought it was on the outside, but really it's on the inside. And so he brings back all of the things that he had stolen for Christmas, and so then, of course, the town, they accept him, and he's brought back into the community. And so I want to share this story for a few things, because when I watch this story, I apologize if you all have already seen this movie. Again, I just don't watch TV, and so it was new to me. I just have watched it in the past year. And so when I was watching it, I was like, this is such a great story, for kids, because this is the exact thing that happens when we think we're holding on to bitterness. We think, I'm going to show you, I'm going to be so bitter, I'm going to be isolated, I'm not going to let anybody into my life, I'm going to be up here in this mountain, in this remote cave with my dog. And in reality, everybody else is still getting on with their life, right? They're still continuing on, nothing has changed for them. They're just moving right along. And this is exactly, so in this story, the Grinch didn't do anything. He was just different. He was just different than all of the other kids, but he didn't know how to handle that, process that appropriately. And so he just isolated himself. He became bitter even up until the time he was an adult. In the meantime, those kids are still going on with their life, right? They still had Christmas that year and the year after that and every other year that the Grinch was up there super angry. Okay, so gratitude can shift your life dramatically, even if none of your circumstances change. The Who's in the story were happy before they got their stuff back. They didn't know that they would ever get their stuff back. They just decided, you know what? It doesn't matter. Christmas is still going to come, even without those boxes, even without the Christmas trees decorated and a fancy meal. I can still choose to be happy, grateful, and enjoy the time with the people who are around me right now. And that is exactly the point of this. One of the main points of me telling you this story, which is that your gratitude can change your whole life attitude. So the next thing I want to say about this is that your gratitude can actually affect other people. In this story, the Who's don't know that the Grinch is watching them. They don't know that he's watching them, waiting for them to be sad. He wants them to be angry. He wants them to feel what he has felt all of these years. And he's watching them, and it's their reaction to the bitterness. It's their reaction to the bad thing that was done to them that causes him to have a change of heart. So you don't know who's watching you. You don't know who's going to be impacted by your response to things when things go badly. You don't know who's going to be impacted by you being grateful in the midst of a crisis, or you forgiving somebody who has wronged you. You don't know the second and third order effects of having that happen. Gratitude allows forgiveness to come, and even restoration is possible when you're in that place of extreme gratefulness. So this is exactly what happened with the Grinch. He comes back down, he apologizes, he gives back all of their things, and they're happy to restore him to the community. This could have happened so much sooner, right? He didn't have to spend all of those years isolated in that cave with his dog. He could have done this a lot sooner, but it wasn't until he saw there was no way for him to get back at them. There was no way for him to hurt them. There was no way for him. And this is what I'm talking about with identity. Like, it doesn't matter what you do to me. It doesn't matter what you say to me. I know who I am. You're not going to faze me. You're not going to get me to be angry at life and bitter towards all the people out there. You're not going to get me to do that. And so thankfulness, again, it's contagious and it can shift atmospheres quickly. And I have mentioned this story a little bit, but I came to this realization when I have twins. One of them was very sick. She was hospitalized, and I was told she wasn't going to survive. And so I was in the hospital with her. She'd been hospitalized for months at this point. Somebody gave me, one of my sister's friends actually had sent me a care package, and it had this book called 1000 Gifts. It's by Ann Voskamp. If you haven't read it, it's amazing. And Anyway, I read this book and I was like, but by this point I already knew, like, I'm so angry with everybody. I'm angry at the first hospital that she was at for not listening to me when I told them that she was getting worse, and they didn't, do enough to help her right away, and she had to be on an emergency flight to Cincinnati, and all this stuff had happened. And so I was like, well, I could start thinking of some things. Now, my daughter had, before she was sick, before she was diagnosed, before she was hospitalized, she had already started walking, talking. She was 14 months old when she went into the hospital. So she was a healthy baby on her first birthday. And I had already seen her do all of this stuff, but she was so sick she couldn't sit up even, because she had tumors on her skull, and it affects her ears, her equilibrium, so she wasn't even able to sit up. And so I was watching this baby that had been super talkative, eating all the time. She wasn't able to eat. They had to feed her through tubes. She had breathing through tubes. And that's the place that I was at when I started to keep track of things that I was grateful for. And finally, it was number 53. I still remember it, where it is on my list. And it was watching her take her first steps twice. She had stopped walking, as I said. She couldn't even sit up. And I got to witness her being able to learn how to walk again. And there is nothing that will fill your heart with gratitude like that, And so it's amazing how your perspective can change. And again, other people are watching you that you have no idea who they are. You don't know that they're watching you, and you will impact other people by shifting your own atmosphere, by changing the way that you see things and do things. That can have a dramatic impact on your family, on your culture, on your city, wherever you are operating in. And so I really want to encourage you to start seeing something from a different perspective, especially when you're stuck in this like bitterness rut where it's like nothing goes right in life, right? Like you're just really feeling like the world is against you. So I just want to encourage you to do that. And again, forgiveness is a process. So don't feel bad if we get to the end of these videos and you have to go back and listen to these videos, or go back through these PDFs, again and again and again. Even if 1,000 times, it's going to be worth it, because you will get free. So, I listened to this one message, again, same time period. Somehow it came onto my YouTube. I wasn't even looking for it. I was not walking with the Lord at this time, and I found some video came onto and it was a Bill Johnson message, and the message was on renewing your mind. And I just remember listening to that. I couldn't get enough of it. I just listened to it over and over and over and over. It was like, I don't know what God he's talking about, but I'd sure like to know that one. And so again, you never know the impact that you can make on somebody simply by walking out your calling, simply by doing what you were put here to do. And so thankfulness, it's a heart posture, right? It's not saying thank you. It's not the words that you say. It's your attitude. It's your heart posture. It's the way that you approach life. That's true thankfulness, and it's an act of worship. God doesn't live in any stone temples, but he lives in our bodies. And our bodies should be a sacrifice that we offer to God. And the worship that we offer in our lives should be on the altar on which he is welcome to fall as a consuming fire. And I've talked about yada, opening up the hand, and allowing your own self to be the sacrifice. And sometimes that's the position that you need to be in while maintaining a heart posture of thankfulness. God, I'm grateful. I'm grateful that you've provided the lamb. I'm grateful that you've provided the sacrifice. I'm grateful that it's me. So sometimes that has to be your heart posture, even when it's super difficult. It's again about making predetermined choices. I've already determined that I'm going to be grateful. I've already determined that I'm going to worship through this circumstance. I've already determined that I'm going to look at something else other than my outside circumstances. I'm going to fix what's inside of me, because that's the only thing that I can control. I can't control what's happening all around me. I can control what's happening in me. So in the last lesson, I also spoke about the necessity to have a plan for when we feel old thoughts of unforgiveness and bitterness rise up. And again, you can do that in, under a minute. So I want to reiterate the importance of predetermined choices, which I just spoke about as well. Like, I've already committed to this, and being committed to it, it has to be a conviction. It cannot just be a head knowledge. Like, I know I need to do that. No, this needs to be, I'm committed to doing it. I don't care what I have to do. I'm going to do it. Even if I have to write down, the steps on sticky notes and put them all over my house and my car, I'm going to get free. So continually walking in unforgiveness is a process, but it's also a choice, just as walking in forgiveness is a choice. So you get to choose, and you get to choose over and over and over and over, sometimes weekly, sometimes daily, sometimes moment by moment. But the longer that you do it, the easier that it will come, the more second nature it will be. And finally, you're going to wake up one day and it's like your whole heart, the whole garden in your heart is nothing but love and joy and peace. And all of those trees of bitterness have been not only uprooted, but replaced with something healthy. I chose this, my own self, every day for years. I am telling you, I did this every day for years. It did not happen overnight for me. I cried out day and night, like, God, just take it, hurry up, do it. And I believe in the instantaneous touch of heaven. I love when God comes down and does a miracle. Sometimes he wants to do it through a process. And it was because he did it through a process in me that I can share that process now with you. But you have to be committed to it even every day, even if you don't ever see a way that this could be possible for you. Sometimes that's how I felt. I felt like, this will never change. Why am I wasting my time doing this? But I had this hope. It might happen. And so it's worth me still investing time and still investing the energy to get this done, Conviction is always evident in actions. I don't need to hear your words. All I need to do is just see what you're doing. I'm going to tell what your convictions are by your actions. I don't need to hear, you need to say 0 words to me, and I'll tell you what your convictions are. So there are, again, ways to grow in Thanksgiving. And if this is difficult for you, where you're just like, I've got nothing to be grateful for, I'm not even grateful that I have any breath, then you need to grow in this area in your life. Thanksgiving needs to be something that you start cultivating. So I made some steps for you to follow. They're in the PDF. There's 5 steps about what you need to do. So again, focus on what you have, not on what you don't have. You're never going to have every single thing. You're never going to have, I don't have every single thing in the whole world. Should that prevent me from being thankful? No. So why would I let not having something prevent me from being thankful with what I have right now? We all have something to be grateful for. You need to decide where you are right now and where you will go in the future. You alone decide this. Decide it right now. This is where, even if it's like, oh, I don't want to be here. Okay, what's your plan to move forward? I will tell you that you won't move forward without Thanksgiving. You're not going to move forward without the thankfulness. You've got to rid blame of others from your life, because the more aware of God you become, the more aware of his awesomeness that you become. You're not going to be consumed with your problem. You're going to be like, wow, God could do this for me in a second. I'm going to give him praise for that. And so you need to either partner with what he's doing or not. You either need to sulk in your situation or decide that's not worth your energy and start making your heart posture change towards one of thanksgiving. You can only control yourself. You cannot control others. That's manipulation. And so you get to choose where your affection, where your time, where your thoughts, where your energy goes. You get to decide that. Nobody else can make you give them emotional energy. You have to decide you want to invest it in them. And so when you are aware of like, wow, I actually get to decide quite a bit of stuff in my life, even if all of this other stuff, I'm waiting for a lot of things to come to fruition. I'm waiting for things to come together. You know what? I'm still in control of, how I wake up in the morning. When do I wake up? How do I wake up? What do I do with my time? How does my outlook on life look? I get to decide that. Life is a journey and not a destination. Lots of times we approach it with like, well, when I get to that place, then I'll be happy. It's like, you might not ever get to that place. Why don't you just enjoy the journey as you get, along the road to get to that place? So again, I feel like a lot of people who struggle with control, who struggle with trust, they're not going to get to that place of like, I'm willing to just like go along for the ride. because they're like, no, I don't like this ride. I want to make it into a different ride. And so just pay attention to what's in your heart, where you are in that process, and ask Holy Spirit to speak into that area of your life. What are you saying, Heaven? What do you say about this situation? How can I partner with you? All right, thankfulness will water all the seeds that are the fruits of the Spirit in your life and will let them grow into fruit. And you are not going to have love without thankfulness. You're not going to have joy without thankfulness. You're not going to have peace without thankfulness. It is going to be incorporated into every single one of those fruits. So it's going to be really important that you start partnering with heaven on that. Okay, so that will conclude this lesson. There's exercises for you to go through in the PDF for this section, and I will see you in lesson 9.